This is the school on Eastwood in my hometown that I went to something like 2nd grade until 4th grade. Finished 4th grade here. This is a nice hill that we used to, a bit of a small valley here. We used to sled down in winter when there was snow, and that was a lot of fun. So this is the street that I lived on for many years of my younger life until I was age 12 or 13. I moved actually to Blue Springs when I was 13, and today is Veterans Day. So here in Marshall, Missouri, in the USA, all the flags are going up to commemorate and celebrate this day, Veterans Day. So we have in my family grandfather Ralph Vanderpool, who passed away in December of 2010, who was a veteran of World War II, and he was a gunner on a tank into Germany, and literally with his own hands had been involved in the frontline liberation of the concentration camps there at that time. And that was a very remarkable time, and in some ways of course difficult time in history. But he also laid wire beyond enemy lines, and I think that was in Luxembourg, and he was at the Battle of Bastion, and a very strong person. After the war, he had an offer to continue as a professional boxer. He was something like 1-0-69. He had won something like 68 of 69 fights that he had in boxing. And then he later returned to Marshall. He was a police officer for a while, and then he and my grandmother Dorothy, his wife, had owned a restaurant for a while, and then they later started a residential care facility or nursing home, which later became Vanderpool Care Incorporated, which my father and I had ran for some years. I had managed for 5 years, and he was a great fisherman. They still have photos up on my father's website, jackvanderpoolguide.com. We're at Truman Lake, Warsaw, Missouri. Harry S. Truman Lake. They would go fishing pro hybrid bass, striped bass, crossed with white bass, and they'll, even still today, my father still goes, and this last summer he's got quite a few videos up from very exciting and successful fishing trips down there with other people that he's taken out on the lake. And this is a schoolmate's house. When I was young, I used to walk here every day. It actually, to what's now my aunt's place, is Eastwood Acres. There's 6 acres there, a house that we, my brother and I and my mother and father, lived in from something like age 8 to 12 or 13 for me. My brother's about 3 years younger than me, so we had moved there when I was young, and every day I would walk this street and go all the way down to school, or more often I would come home from school. And it's about a mile walk. And so today when I'm in town, I like to, it's a few places I like to walk, but this is one of them, and today's kind of a special day, so I'm making this video because I have a lot of friends that are overseas and that dream about visiting America, or, you know, they have questions, what it's like, you know, what's it like where you live, and so that's why I'm making this video. This is a walk I took every day in my young years, and now I do it for exercise, and it's a bit relaxing, but I take this brisk walk, and today I may be going a bit slower because of the video. This is Lincoln Street here in Marshall, Missouri, and they're still putting the flags up here just in front of me. I'll pass them momentarily, again in celebration of Veterans Day, a U.S. holiday commemorating our military service members. And I'll probably stop by the cemetery momentarily after this to visit my grandfather Ralph's gravesite, and my grandmother's there, her marker stone, that is, next to him, the same stone, in commemoration of his highly awarded service in World War II in the U.S. military as a corporal, frontline soldier, gunner on a tank. I can't imagine sometimes what that was like for him, but I had actually, most of the family, we had not heard about his specialty and his many medals and awards and some of his experiences until after he had passed in December of 2010. In fact, I hadn't heard some of it yet more until this trip. So this is you know, the family gets together, and we're still, some of us, the younger ones, are still learning, because grandfather didn't like to talk much about the war, and he'd rather like to have put that experience behind him. But today is appropriate for speaking about it, because this is a day where we honor those in military service, or those who have passed that were in military service. Morning. Good morning. Good. How are you? So this is also for my friends overseas, again, who ask about what it's like to be in America, or just some, you know, what does it look like, or things like that. I've had most people in these foreign countries that I've been in 14 at minimum. It'd be more if you count layovers at airports, but you know, places like Australia, for example, I haven't spent time at yet, or Thailand, but I've been at the airports, for example, but just for layover. But at 14 countries I've actually spent time in, and 5 of those, you know, for significant periods of time. So I often get to, you know, hear about how people want to come to New York, or maybe even LA, and you know, they're great cities. I have a friend, close friend from high school, and we're still friends. In fact, I'll see him next week on this Thanksgiving holiday window of time. But he's lived in both, and I've never spent much time in LA, but he's lived in LA for a number of years, and also New York, and he comes back to Kansas City, and they're both kind of unique in their personalities, and the kind of the people have a little bit different way of seeing things, or kind of a different feel, a different energy. But many people overseas that I've ran into, they're like, oh, I dream to see New York, and things like that. But in order to establish some sort of kind of a connectedness, I tell people, I've attended University of Missouri Columbia for a time, and Columbia is one of the top-rated cities, best places to live, if you consider the various categories of, economy, crime rate, and education, and all these other factors that they consider. Columbia, Missouri is fantastic in terms of ratings. It's one of the top on the lists of best overall places to live in the United States. And we're just here, 45 minutes drive from Columbia, Missouri. So, and I've lived in Warrensburg, I've attended CMSU, and I've attended Missouri Valley College, which in fact has... And today, I continue filming from where I left off in the first part of this video, but it's a few days after Veterans Day now. This is now, I think, part of the Missouri Valley College over here. This used to be the Blosser's Children Home, and this is just some of the different houses here on Eastwood. We used to live here in our younger years. I'm actually referring to my younger brother. We'd walk by here, and this place was completely covered with, not covered, but the perimeter was with all kinds of pine trees and other trees. Pretty thick bushes. But yeah, this is nice architecture. This is very different. It's kind of a barn design, really. An A-frame with a normal design on the other side there. So it's kind of a replica of a barn in my mind. This is what it reminds me of. So there's a lot of these houses here are older. And this structure over here. But every day, during school at least, we would take this walk from the school in the first part of this video to where we lived, which I'm approaching here in the next minute or two. I love these trees. I love pine trees. One thing I love about taking trips to Colorado, I used to go there on road trips, just impromptu usually. I had a great love for the Rockies, and visiting the Grand Canyon and Sedona, Arizona, the red rocks, flat rocks, right before you get in there. But this is, these pine trees are the closest thing here in Missouri that I can get to the feeling of being up in the mountains. But in any case, yeah, this is a nice day. It's a lot nicer than it was this last Sunday on Veterans Day. There was some leftover kind of Halloween and Thanksgiving decorations there. So this house where my family and I lived, probably when I was like from 8, 9, 10 years old, something like that, until I was about 12 or 13. We moved from here to Blue Springs, Missouri. But this is the house I'm coming up on now. My aunt lives there, and sometimes my cousins are there. But this is what we call Eastwood Acres, and there's about 6 acres that go all the way back. It's quite a large property, and we used to have a couple of horses there, for quite some time, as well as at one point we had a couple dozen rabbits and different gardens and dogs, and there used to be a barn there. I think over the years after my aunt moved in, there was a swimming pool behind the property. I don't think that that's there now. But over here is Indian Foothills Park, just within a half a mile to a mile actually to the entrance, just less than probably a quarter of a mile. But this is Eastwood Acres, as we call it. We used to have a lot of fun here. There used to be more and bigger trees. Over there is Ridge Park Cemetery. Can't see it in the video, but this is where my grandparents are now. They were buried, and then my other grandparents, Charlie and Wilma Phillips, are at Sunset Memorial Gardens near the Marshall Airport. This is a view of down the street that I just walked up. And in the first video was walking up. So this is also down to the entrance, one of the entrances to Indian Foothills Park. And here is an actual monument with the name of this. Eastwood Acres. So this is, there used to be a large house here too, but they've since removed that, and now you just see there's nothing there except some garages, storage building. But yeah, this two-story house is where my brother and I spent most of our years before I was 12 or 13 years old. So, and now my aunt lives here with her husband. So when we go down to ride the horses or the dirt bikes, we used to have a Suzuki. My brother had a Suzuki dirt bike. I had a 80cc Suzuki dirt bike, or motorcycle, if you will. And we used to ride all the way through here. These trees weren't here then, I don't believe. I think now they've been planted since that time. I used to have a grapevine over here. My mother and brother and I, we made wine, and handmade from what used to be the grapevine there. And we used to have a nice sized dog pen over here, and then later there was some rabbits that we raised for some years. But this goes down quite far. As I said, the horses that we used to have here for some years, they would graze from about this point on back to the tree line. And to this day you can still see some wild turkey, foxes, possums, raccoons, deer, hawks, certainly crows, and other beautiful and nice wildlife, Missouri wildlife here. So we were here for about 7 or 8 years or so before we moved off to Blue Springs, Missouri, and that's about the time that my aunt, I think my grandparents were here for a while, but then my aunt has been here since that time. My father's sister. Here's a jet. Looks like some old tomatoes back here. I don't know what's happened with that. But yes, I wasn't able to complete the video in the first part, so I decided to go ahead and kind of complete it today for mainly just for friends, family that aren't here, haven't been here for a while, or haven't seen a little bit of my history from my younger years. I got a lot of friends that are overseas that may be seeing this on Facebook or a YouTube channel, and it's just you know, a lot of people that I meet overseas, I've been overseas 5 of the last 7 years in different countries, they'll often mention something about New York, as I said earlier, but in reality there's a lot of great places in the U.S. that are far from even the state of New York. I don't have anything against New York. Certainly it's a wonderful city. I've heard. I've never been there, but actually, as I said in the first part of this video, I'm about 45 minutes drive from this point that I'm standing to Columbia, Missouri. So I've made some video there before. I don't know if I've published it to the internet, but I have privately to friends to show them where I attended university for a bit and lived there for a little time. And this is a lot of what used to be pasture. Now it's just open. So there's a lot of birds up here. They like these trees used to have a lot of nuts, hickory nuts, and acorns and things like that. So there's a lot of squirrels and different types of birds and things that like to come here and feed. And it's pretty peaceful mostly. As you can see, the street is. I think we have many nice places in my hometown here, but it's one of the more grand, more traditional, if you will, streets, and it's very beautiful in this time of year. Certainly the leaves are changing colors or have changed colors, so it's quite colorful, and perhaps a little bit more so earlier in the season, because at the time that I'm making this video today, it is about November 15th. So a lot of the trees, as you can see, don't even have their leaves. So in any case, to those that are seeing this before or during this time of November 2012, happy holidays, happy Thanksgiving. And for those friends that are overseas, I hope that you found it interesting just to see a bit of a place where we spent quite a lot of time, and at least half of our childhood. The other part was earlier in Columbia, Missouri. We'd actually lived right outside of Columbia, Missouri for some years, even before living at this location that I'm filming now. So I think that's it for now. There's a great city park over that way. Maybe I'll get some more film for that later. It's a fantastic place to see the stars on a clear night, and a lot of people go there and picnic, and it's one of the strengths of our area. I had the pleasure of meeting up with the mayor just by coincidence. I was in the McDonald's the other morning. I was getting coffee there with my mother and her husband Terry Cook, and we saw the mayor, and I knew it was a good thing because, you know, I'm an astrologer, and when he was voted in, it was a very strong Jupiter day, which is just fantastic for good fortune, peace, and luck and protection and things like that, and that's very good for our city. And I was remarking to him about how wonderful it is to have the Van Meter State Park just 15 miles from here, and how fantastic our parks are. You know, they have a lake out here near the Hab Center, and recreation area there, as well as the Indian Foothills City Park over here. And we're actually quite fortunate. I've been in several places in the world, and certainly there are nice parks elsewhere, but we have quite vast and well kept and very beautiful city park as well as state park near here. So I was complimenting him on our community, and I just wanted to share with him and everybody now that's watching this video or perhaps listening to this video that we are fortunate in that respect, and I appreciate it much more after having spent time in other countries, some of which are not yet that far along in their development or to that level of development yet. But in any case, it's one thing that I'm very appreciative. It's one of the things you'll learn when you travel. There's things that you will learn to appreciate and other things that you may not appreciate. But in any case, it's a good learning experience, and it teaches you about your own country, your own mentality, your own people, your own culture, because it's very difficult to understand it fully until you go and spend time living for some period of time in another culture, whether it's as a long-term tourist or expatriate, whatever the case may be. A lot of people are working for various companies or government organizations, or have other situations where they're living in other countries, and certainly it's one of the best ways to learn. And Dr. Leo Buscaglia, that's L-E-O, last name is B-U-S-C-L-A-G-I-A, I think. He has some books like Living, Loving, and Learning, and some other books. His, along with a philosophy teacher at Missouri Valley College, Dr. Tim Nelson, they both had spoken about the importance of travel for learning about yourself and about your own people and country and culture, because you really never can truly understand it, really, until you have this experience. And the more you do and the more you see, the more you will learn over time. And that's a very good thing if you're an awake or an awakening and aware or consciously evolving person, I believe. It's quite a difficult task sometimes to evolve consciously, and I think in awareness as well. And certainly traveling is not for everyone. It's not something that every single person perhaps should do, but it is something that many should do and will do. Certainly some of the people that are watching this video, I'm sure, have found their way here who have an interest or experience in international travel. And in any case, this is the reason why I share it with you, so I hope that you will enjoy. You may check out some of those books by the author I mentioned earlier. Leo was a fantastic writer and teacher. He had the first university class on love. It was actually called Love 101. Enjoy the video, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and thanks for watching.